As the 8th day of the strike concludes, the two sides still seem miles apart. Meanwhile, here in the International League, Grady Little's Richmond Braves are battling to make it into the playoffs. 17 regular season games remain, and tonight they face the Norfolk Tides, a team they have yet to beat in Richmond. Baseball next on TBS. Hello again, everybody. Along with Joe Simpson, Skip Carey welcoming you to another night of Braves baseball. This time it's the Richmond Braves again against the Norfolk Tides. As you're about to see, pretty good pennant race in this division. Columbus and Charlotte and Richmond all battling for the top 2 spots in the division. Top 2 go to the playoffs. The third team goes home. Tonight, the Norfolk Tides, the opposition, and they are 7-0 against Richmond in this ballpark, the Diamond. Two pretty good pitchers tonight, both with major league backgrounds, Joe.
Mike Birkbeck for the Richmond Braves, 33 years old. Jason Hockamy for the Norfolk Tides, who's 23 years old, and he got a recall recently to the big leagues with the Mets, and he pitched a very good ball game against the Braves on August 1st. He pitched 7 strong innings, gave up 2 runs, but Greg Maddux bested him in that contest. But Mike Birkbeck already in double figures again in wins for the Richmond Ball Club. He's a guy with some great big league experience, has 14 wins in the big leagues, and he's hoping to find a chance, find an opportunity somewhere. If it's not with Atlanta, then some other big league club to get back to the big leagues.
Baseball right around the corner. Stay with us. Back with the starting lineups. Then the play-by-play story on tonight's game right after this.
Come back to the Diamond in Richmond, Virginia, where they are celebrating the 10th anniversary of the construction of this ballpark. 12,134 capacity, and they're expecting a sellout here tonight for Game 2 of their series with the Norfolk Tides. Here's the Sears Diehard starting lineup for Bobby Valentine tonight. Kilvio Veras will start it off at second base. Doug DeCenzo, a veteran major leaguer in left field. Jeremy Burnett's just sent down by the Mets in right field. Butch Huskies at third base. Sean Hare, a former Detroit Tiger, at first. Joe Kamak at catcher. Greg Graham will be the shortstop batting 7th. Patrick Howell in center field bats 8th. And Jason Hockamy, the pitcher, bats 9th. The defense for the Richmond Ball Club: Lee Heath, a late addition in left field. Brian Kowitz in center and Jarvis Brown in right. Jose Oliva, Mike Mordecai, Pat Kelly, and Louis Lopez on the infield from third to first. Eduardo Perez behind the plate, and on the mound, Mike Birkbeck, 33 years old, 6'2", 185-pounder, out of Canton, Ohio, 10-6 on the year. The last couple of years for the Richmond Ball Club, he has been outstanding, and most notably after a Braves loss. They lost last night to the Tides, but he is 13-4 after a Richmond loss over the last 2 seasons.
Kilvio Veras leads it off. He has 32 stolen bases on the year, and the game is underway. Shortened the bunt, took a strike. Birkbeck out of Canton, Ohio. 79 degrees at game time. A very pleasant night in Richmond. Boy, this ballpark, compared to what they had here in '81, it's really gorgeous. Breaking ball downstairs, evens it up with a ball and a strike. This is Birkbeck's second good year in a row at Richmond. He was 13-8 last year, an earned run average of 3.11. The bunt is a pretty good one. Oliva got a good jump, though, and throws him out, 1 away. Veras is retired, and Doug DeCenzo, the batter. Last time I saw him, he was charging John Smoltz in New York back early in the year. DeCenzo hitting .284, 3 homers, 25 RBIs, as you see. Oh, that's right. That was John Cangelosi. Well, I knew it was a small Italian outfield. The pitch is a strike right in there, 0-1.
You're going to see a lot of good curveballs from Mike Birkbeck. That's his best pitch. Gets in trouble with it a little bit when he is upstairs with it, but it's a good one.
There's another one, just missed. By the way, first base umpire Brian Gibbons wants us to wish his dad Jim a happy birthday. He's looking in South Bend, Indiana tonight. Fast strike on the outside corner. Third base umpire Jim Taylor wants to be remembered, all the people in either Carteret or Carteret, North Carolina. Fly ball left field, fairly well hit. But an easy out. 2 down.
What about home plate umpire Mark Mosby? Who do you want to say hello to?
Home plate umpire apparently has no friends. No note from him. 2 out, nobody on. Here's Jeremy Burnett's hitting .253. 10 homers, 38 RBIs. That's a bit of a disappointment. The Mets very high on this young man. Oh, he's got a good hook. 0-1.
Good strikeout to walks ratio, too. 130 strikeouts, 39 walks, and 146 innings. He's around the plate.
Fastball down and in.
As pitching starved as so many teams are, I'm really surprised people haven't been ringing the phone off the hook in Atlanta. Want to know about this guy's availability.
Curve high and outside. 2 balls and a strike. Well, you know that Birkbeck realizes that a lot of baseball people have nothing to do these days, and they're watching this game just to see a ball game. So foul tip back. That one rocks Perez. Two balls, 2 strikes. Congratulations, by the way, to John Sherholtz, who's signed an extension that will take him through the 1999 season at the helm of the Atlanta Braves.
Hear, hear.
Very deserving of that.
Absolutely.
He's done a terrific job. The 2-2 pitch. Fouled back to the screen. Still 2-2.
I had my doubts back in 1984, but I think John's come a long way since then.
I think that was the year that really got him going when he released you. People all over baseball began to realize what a keen analyst of the game he was. The 2-2 pitch, here it is. Swung and ripped hard, but fouled on the first base line. Count stays the same. Our next action will be Tuesday night against Pawtucket up there.
I believe their stadium is called McCoy Stadium or McCoy Field. Burnett's broke his bat. He's going to have to get another one. This stadium is built on the same site as the old one. It's called Parker Field. But this is gorgeous.
They didn't have booths like this one, or elevators. By the way, Marlon McPhail is coaching at third and Jim Batcher at first for the Tides. There's Bobby Valentine, the head man of the Norfolk team, who used to be called the Tidewater Tides. That's where Pete Van Weeren worked before he joined us. Pete not with us tonight. The pitch. Still 2-2. Stephen Van Weeren takes himself a ride tomorrow in Tallapoosa, Georgia. We wish them a happy life, and I hope everything goes smoothly tomorrow. I know it will.
This was hit or be hit for Burnett. That ball was breaking right in on his knees.
2-2. Chopped another one foul. Count stays the same. Capacity crowd here, and our friend the Chicken will join us again.
He's following us, huh?
I hope he's not in Pawtucket. Off-speed pitch got him. They're going to have to throw him out. They do, and the inning is over. 1-2-3, nothing doing. Bottom of the first rolls around. No score in the ball game.
Mike Birkbeck has a perfect top half of the first inning. Here's Grady Little's lineup tonight. Jarvis Brown will lead it off in right field. Brian Kowitz in center. Mike Mordecai at shortstop. Louis Lopez, the cleanup hitter. Then it's Jose Oliva, who's swinging a hot bat. Eddie Perez, Lee Heath, who was called up from High Desert in the Cal League. Pat Kelly at second base. Mike Birkbeck, the pitcher. Defensively for the Tides, DeCenzo, Howell, and Burnett's in the outfield. That's a pretty good threesome out there. Husky, Graham, Veras, and Hare from third to first. Joe Kamak behind the plate, and on the mound, a left-hander that the Mets are mighty high on. Jason Hakami makes his 16th start of the year for the Norfolk Ball Club.
Jarvis Brown is the batter, and the bottom of the first is underway, and Hakami deals a strike. The only reason he's here is the strike. He has pretty well clinched himself a spot in the Mets rotation for the foreseeable future. Brown hits it foul and out of play. It's 0-2. Hakami doesn't mess around. You can see he did a heck of a job for New York. The Braves really impressed by him in the game he lost to Greg Maddux.
He has a very good changeup. That's his best pitch. And there it is.
It's popped up in foul territory. An easy play for Kamat. 1 out. So Brown is retired, and Brian Coates the batter. Coates having a good solid year, hitting .290 with 7 homers, 50 runs driven in.
And by the way, we should mention that Mike Kelly not in the lineup last night or tonight after fouling a ball off his shin in batting practice last night.
Coates stands in there. They're still filing into the ballpark here in Richmond. Good breaking ball. It's 0-1. Hakami second in the International League in earned run average at 2.63. His last game in AAA was June 22nd. A ball and a strike to count. Curve swung, fly ball left center field. Who wants it? Left fielder DeCenzo takes it 2 down. So Coates is retired, and Mike Mordecai will be the batter.
You might remember that when we were doing the game from Toledo the other night, that's an American League affiliate. The Toledo Mud Hens are affiliated with the Detroit Tigers, so in their home ballpark, they use the DH. When you play in the home park of a National League affiliate, such as the Braves, the pitchers hit, no DH.
Which I guess is the best way they can do it, but it really is an odd way to go about business. Mordecai waits. Hakami deals a strike on the outside corner, 0-1. Latest news on the strike that we've heard is that now the owners have consented, 5 of them, to get in on the meetings next week. One wonders why they couldn't have made that concession a month ago and moved this thing along a little more quickly. Maybe avoided it altogether. Who knows? Hot shot. Good play at third base by Husky. And the inning is over. Mordecai hit it sharply, but he is retired. And the Braves go quickly in the first. At the end of 1, we're scoreless in Richmond. Big Butch Husky leads off the second inning for the Tides in a scoreless game. Husky having an off year, 234, 10 homers, 52 ribbies. He's had shoulder problems. 1 ball, no strikes. But he's also had a tough year at third base, 24 errors already. Let up, sweeps outside.
You see his numbers coming into this season very impressive in the lower minors, where he was very productive. But he supposedly injured that shoulder in instructional league on a home run.
Yeah, Hal was telling me he couldn't even finish his trip around the bases if he hurt it so bad. And that's a difficult question for the Mets now as they evaluate this young man. Is he having an off year at AAA because he's overmatched here, or is he having it because of that shoulder injury, or both? 2 balls, 2 strikes. He is a bona fide prospect.
6'3", 244.
And the 2-2 pitch from Mike Birkbeck is not going to be made. Husky steps up.
I know that Dallas Green was counting on him to have it perhaps be part of the ball club, be the third baseman for the major league team if he was healthy.
Just missed inside, 3-2.
Came into camp weighing 275. I believe did they send him to one of those
Fat farms?
well, the diet places like Duke University?
I don't know.
They teach you how to eat right. I believe they did.
Base hit up the middle. Birkbeck reached for that with his bare hand. I'm glad he didn't attempt it. There's the first base runner of the night as Husky singles. And Sean Hare hops to the plate for that next. Hare hitting .279, 11 homers, 35 RBI. This guy's always been a pretty good hitter.
John Hudek was a guy with the Detroit system that they gave up on, and he turned out to be a pretty good closer for the Houston Astros this year. I'm sure Sean Hare hopes the same thing happens to him, because Tides got him after the Detroit team released him.
Hit .264 last year at Toledo. Was hitting .303 at Toledo this year, then went to the Mets, batted 40 times, hit .231. He's out of St. Louis and Central Michigan University. Pop foul back and out of play, and the count evens at a ball and a strike. We are scoreless in the second inning. Joe Simpson, Skip Carey with you. Ernie Johnson, Don Sutton will join you at the midway point of the game. And Pete will rejoin us Tuesday in Pawtucket. The lady's got a banner. First the stretch and the pitch. Strike on the corner. It says, Atlanta Braves tickets for sale. Cheap. I know what you mean. 1-2 the count. Butch Husky has 15 stolen bases, which is surprising when you consider his bulk. 15 out of 20.
He's a pretty good high school football player out of Blockton, Oklahoma. In fact, turned down a scholarship to OU.
Is that Oregon?
No.
A ball and 2 strikes.
You know, I was even looking today. I think the first preseason football poll came out. I was even looking in the category of others receiving votes. Didn't see Missouri anywhere, buddy.
You've had a very busy day between that and creating a new lake here in Richmond. The pitch, that curve slipped on it. 2-2. Yeah, Joe, about 10 minutes before we came on the air, decided to pour a whole Pepsi on his score sheet. Two balls, 2 strikes. What a bad break for Joe. Jammed him with a fastball, but he fought it off and fouled it away. Still 2 balls, 2 strikes.
Only in the interest of trying to help my partner. Accidents do happen when you're trying to make others more comfortable.
You got your comfortable. 2-2 the count. Double play ball. 5, 4, 3. Pat Kelly turned it over in the middle of the diamond. 2 down.
Last night, Oliva made an error that hurt his ball club on a similar type play with a runner at second. He tried to pick off a guy going back to the bag on a line drive and threw the ball away. But you can see he gets rid of the ball so quick. Sometimes the second baseman are not even yet to the bag when he's feeding them for the double play. But Kelly made a nice turn.
Joe Kamak is the batter, and he takes it outside. 1 ball, no strikes. Kamak out of Foster City, California. He's been up with Milwaukee. Hit .218 in part of a season there last year. He was claimed on release waivers from Milwaukee last November. Oh! Just a little bit inside.
It's kind of interesting. How can a guy go from the man they expected to be their #1 catcher at the start of the season to a guy who gets released at the end of the season?
I guess you hit .218 with no homers, 7 RBIs.
Yeah.
But then he went to New Orleans and hit .303. So he was a high school teammate of Barry Bonds. San Mateo, California. The payoff pitch, here it is. Got him with an off-speed pitch. Kamak goes down swinging, and Burke Patrick through the second in good shape, records his second strikeout. 1 hit, no runs, no errors, none left. Bottom of the second, no score.
We go to the bottom half of the second inning. No score here at the Diamond in Richmond. And this copyrighted broadcast is presented by authority of the Richmond Braves, the International League, and the National Association of Professional Baseball Leagues Incorporated. and is intended solely for the private, non-commercial use of our audience. Any publication, rebroadcast, reproduction, retransmission, or other use of the pictures, descriptions, or accounts of this game without the express written consent of all of the organizations listed above is prohibited. And don't forget about our Holiday Inn player of the game that we selected at the conclusion of tonight's ball game.
Our man is here again, the San Diego Chicken. I don't think that's what I think he calls himself the Great Chicken.
Famous.
Famous Chicken?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, he's right about that.
Mm-hmm.
Tell you what, he's 110 cities in 120 days is his schedule. Wow. Louis Lopez leads off the second. Hakami's upstairs. 1 ball, no strikes. Lopez leads the leagues in hits. 4th in batting average at .322. He's got a 5-game hitting streak. I'll work it.
He really has a nice short swing, short stride, and is very strong.
Fouls that one away. 2 balls and a strike.
Bobby Cox was talking about Louis Lopez the other day, talking about how he foresaw him perhaps as a type like Francisco Cabrera off the bench. But I think this guy's probably a better hitter, average-wise, than Cabrera was.
2-2 the count. And a high pop into short center. Who wants it? The second baseman is out there. Veras calls for it, puts it away, 1 down. So 4 in a row set down by Hakami. And here's Jose Oliva. Oliva, too, a 5-game hitting streak. Hitting .266, 21 homers, 59 RBI. Bobby Valentine, interesting quote in the paper here today about Oliva. Said, I think he takes some at-bats off in AAA, and he said, I think he'll be a better hitter in the big leagues, which is good news for Braves fans. If it's true, breaking ball in on his hands, 0-1.
He also said he thinks he's probably the best player in the league, if not the best, one of the best.
Pops away from Kamak. All the stuff we said about what the Chicken was doing in the bottom of the second Tuesday night, he's doing all that stuff again. Oliva doesn't catch up to that. He's in the hole 1-2. Grounded to third. Husky, good play to his left. Throws him out, 2 down. And Eddie Perez, the batter. Perez at .260 on the year with 8 homers, 45 runs driven in. He's got a shot to play in the major league somewhere next year. I don't know if Atlanta would be the stop. Find a defensive catcher and a decent hitter.
And throwing out 41% of would-be base stealers.
Hakami deals outside. 1 ball, no strikes. He doesn't mess around, this Hakami. He comes right after you. He's out of Tulsa, Oklahoma, but grew up in Tucson. A ball and a strike.
Kind of jumps at you with that motion, too, on his changeup, which really sets it up nice. And he's turning it over a little bit down and away to the right-handed hitters.
Hakami got to the big leagues in a hurry. Last year he was at St. Lucie and then at Binghamton. This year, a little while here, and he's all the way to the big club. Breaking ball inside. Two balls, 2 strikes, 2 out. Looks like a screwball popped up. Hair is there. He's called off at the last moment, and Veras, to be truthful about it, makes the catch. So nothing doing in the second for Richmond at the end of 2. We're scoreless at the diamond.
over here in Richmond as we go to the top half of the third inning. One of the features here at the Diamond, this new ballpark that celebrates its 10th birthday this year, is a full-service restaurant. It seats 150 folks. If you want to come to the ballpark and eat before the ball game, they've got a nice buffet open to the public. Full-service menu. They've got a buffet that I think about $10.95 per person. And really a nice treat if you want to come to the ball. Don't have time to stop and eat with the family. Instead of grabbing some usual baseball fare, you come in and sit down at the restaurant down there right behind the Richmond Braves dugout.
And you can get a cold one if you like as well.
Absolutely.
Okay, we go to the third inning, and Greg Graham will lead it off. The shortstop hitting just .212. Graham out of Owensboro, Kentucky. Last year he played at St. Lucie, hit just .196. Fastball hit on the ground to short. Mordecai up, hop, skip, and throw. He's got a good arm. 1 out. 1 pitch, 1 out in the third, and Patrick Howell is the batter. The center fielder hitting just .220. They say he's an outstanding defensive player, but the bat is a little in doubt. Huh?
Well, he's a good bunter, uses his speed well. He's just got to learn to make some adjustments at the plate to get that average up there a little bit. Learn to hit the breaking ball a little bit better. But he can bunt.
And shortens up to do so. Takes a strike. It's 0-1.
This infield here, very much like what happened in Atlanta. They've had a lot of rain. The tarp was on the field a lot the last few weeks, and it's hurt the grass.
And this is the breaking ball. Missed it badly. 0-2.
Let's see a few bare spots around the infield here at the Diamond.
Got him with a curveball. 3 strikeouts for Birkbeck.
And until he proves he can hit that breaking ball, I'm sure he's going to see a few more of them tonight. 2 straight. Strike 2 and strike 3. Tried to make an adjustment and swung right over the top of it.
Almost looks like a right-hand hitter trying to hit left-handed. There's a high drive off the bat of Hakami. Jarvis Brown is back there, though. And the inning is over in just 5 pitches. 1, 2, 3, nothing doing. We go to the bottom half of the third inning with your score. Norfolk nothing, Richmond nothing.
No score as we go to the bottom half of the third inning. Folks here being entertained by the famous chicken. We take a look at the Michigan International League ERA leaders, which has Brad Woodall right at the top of the list at 2.01. And Jason Hakami working for Norfolk tonight, second. Mike Birkbeck fourth in the league. Those are some pretty good numbers in this league, as offensive-minded as it is, especially some teams with DHs. And by the way, I need to correct that if an American League team were playing here against the Richmond Braves, they would be using the DH. But since these are 2 National League affiliates, that's why no DH being used tonight.
Lee Heath leads off the third inning and takes a strike. It's 0-1. (0-1) the count. A ball and a strike. Heath played at High Desert. A-ball this year, hit .271, 20 homers, 71 RBI. His debut with the Richmond Braves was over in Toledo the other night. He was 0 for 3, hit the ball hard at least once. But does not make contact with that one. It's 1-2.
That off-speed pitch, that changeup is a beauty.
Sort of a Tom Glavine-esque pitcher. 1-2 the count. Got him with a hook. Heath is out of there, and Hakami records his first strikeout. Pat Kelly is the batter. Kelly out of Waukegan, Illinois. Last year hit .281 at Durham and then .255 at Greenville. He's been a part-time player here, batting .273. Strike over the outside corner. It's 0-1. Fastball foul back. 0-2 the count.
Grady Little's got 3 guys he can use just about any time he wants, depending on who's pitching. To use at second base, he can use Kelly, Ed Giovanola, who we saw the other night, and also Jose Almeida, who was so impressive in spring training.
Sawed him off. High pop on the infield. The second baseman Veras will have it. That was a major league jam job there. 2 down. 8 in a row knocked off by Hakami.
And that's what makes that changeup so effective, Skip. If he's going to be able to run the fastball in on the right-handed batter's hands like this, no way you can sit and wait around for that changeup. Watch him pull his hands in here just to try to fight it off and stay alive, but he put it in play instead.
That's one where you're praying for a foul ball, right? Birkbeck looks at a strike. Hakami is in mid-season form. 0-2.
He was a 12th round choice by the Mets back in '91 out of Pima County Junior College.
Graham puts it away, and another very quick inning is in the books. 1, 2, 3, nothing doing. The end of 3, we're scoreless in Richmond.
Park, they've also got 15 what they call super boxes that they sold to help finance this ballpark. The city and counties chipped in $4 million to help get it done, but the other $4 million came from 10-year leases on those 15 super boxes, and you buy them or lease them for $250,000 over a 10-year period. You can see how luxurious some of them are completed. Very nice place to watch a ball game, and very close to the action here.
And fans, you can keep up with what's going on inside the Braves organization all year long by subscribing to Chop Talk, the official monthly magazine of the Atlanta Braves. Call 1-800-700-CHOP. 1-800-700-CHOP now to order your subscription. We go to the 4th inning here. Kilvio Veras leads it off. He grounded to third his first time. Only one base runner in the game, and that was Butch Husky. He was erased in a double play. Veras waits, and Birkbeck deals, and a breaking ball is in there for a strike. It's 0-1. Veras can run 32 stolen bases, but he has been thrown out 17 times. Ground ball, good play. Can they throw him out? Yeah, Birkbeck does his job. 1 down. Good play by Lopez and a good play by Birkbeck. 1 away.
This was a terrific play by Lopez. Not only is he having to go away from the bag, but on his throwback, he was able to stop and find Birkbeck in time to give him a good lead toss.
Boy, I'll tell you what, Veras lucky he didn't get hurt. He slid very late there.
Ooh, very lucky. That was a bad slide.
Lucky he got that front foot over the bag, or he's maybe looking at a broken ankle. DeCenzo takes a curve low. 1 ball, no strikes.
He's got a good job tonight. Both catchers.
So far, yeah.
Perez and Kamak, all they've got to do is give a sign and then sit back in the rocking chair.
Richmond's lovable mascot, Diamond Duck, is here. Trying to look at that. Grounded to short. Mordecai waits, fields, throws. Got him. 2 down. And Jeremy Burnett's the batter. He struck out his first time, 1 of 3 Birkbeck strikeouts in the game.
Interesting battle, too, because Birkbeck kept firing breaking balls to him and finally got one by him.
Curve high, 1 ball, no strikes. Scoreless, 4th inning. Each pitcher has faced the minimum. For one of the few times tonight. Birkbeck behind on the count. It's 2-0.
Last year he was the most valuable pitcher on this ball club. Number 1 in the league in wins. Tied for first in strikeouts. Number 2 in ERA. Earned him a promotion to the 40-man roster for the Atlanta ball club.
Up the middle, there's a hit. Second of the night for the Tides. Burnett's is aboard, and the man that got the other hit, Butch Husky, is the batter. Burnett's has 14 stolen bases and 18 tried. And he could be running here to get into scoring position with 2 out.
Bobby Valentine gave him a chance to hit 3-0, and one thing with these two guys playing, you would assume both sides would be playing for 1 run. Thinking that might be all it takes tonight.
Norfolk 1 game under at 63 and 64. The Braves are 68 and 56 on the year. Outside, 1 ball, no strikes. What wind there is blowing toward left field. It's 330 down the lines here, 404 in straightaway center. Just a little bit outside. 2 balls, no strikes. And they're 6-1 at Norfolk. Go figure. Good breaking ball snapped in there.
Yes, beauty. It's kind of interesting too about Norfolk. They have a better record. In fact, they have a winning record on the road. Their team batting average is better on the road. And they've got a brand new nice facility to play in Norfolk.
2 balls, 1 strike. With you again Tuesday night from Pawtucket at 7:35. How do you get there? You go to Providence.
Yes.
You know what we're doing? All the way to the screen. That curveball didn't bite, a stolen base for Burnett. Certainly picked the right pitch to run on. His 15th stolen base.
That one really slipped out of Mike's hand. Curveball, yes, but he, as he's looking down at the ground, didn't land very well on the slope of the mound, and he also had to go back and get a little more rosin on his hand. It's a humid night here. Temperature at game time 79 degrees, but a lot of humidity. In fact, neither team took batting practice on the field before the game because of the threat of rain.
But as it worked out, the only place where there was any moisture was in our booth. Thanks to my partner. 3 balls, 2 strikes.
You know, we're going to have to get more than just 3 headsets up here, so that each inning you can try a new one.
If we would get some headsets that worked, I thought it would be something else. 3-2 pitch. Swung on, fly ball left field. Pretty well hit, but Heath was back there. And the inning is over. He was jammed on that ball and still hit it about 300 feet. Into left field. 1 hit, no runs, no errors, 1 left. Bottom of the 4th rolls round in a scoreless contest. Bottom half of the 4th inning. Top of the order for the Richmond Bravos. Jarvis Brown will lead it off. That's the chicken as a shark. And that's part of the big crowd here. Richmond is 3rd in the International League in attendance, by the way. They've drawn over 400,000 this year.
Averaging a little over 7,000 per date. That's pretty impressive.
Jarvis fouled to the catcher his first time. We are zipping right along here, aren't we? Hakami delivered. Fastball inside. 1 ball, no strikes. Jarvis now at 275 for the year. Squibbed that one right off the end of the bat. Hakami, oh, he boots the ball. You can't throw it until you catch it. That almost certainly has to be an error, I would think.
And you know what? I think Jarvis's hustle caused this. Hakami wanted to get over there and field it and make the tag. but because Jarvis was hustling, he kind of rushed it and looked up before he had it in the glove.
And it is an error on the pitcher, as it should be. Well, let's see if Richmond can cash in on the break. Jarvis Brown, 7 out of 9. Throw to first. He's got a good move. Runner back. Coates flied to left his first time. Coates out of Owen Mill, Maryland.
And let's see if Huckabee throws him the changeup. Might be a little more difficult for him with a left-handed batter up there to use it like he cuts it down and away to the right-handers.
Well, you know, as we chronicled throughout the year, Tom Glavine much more effective against right-hand hitters than he is against left-handers. See if the same is true for Huckabee. Clouding up here again. The bright moon was shining a few moments ago, but it is now obscured by clouds. Curveball caught that outside corner.
If he can throw that pitch for strikes, he doesn't need to throw him a changeup.
Yeah, that was an excellent curveball. He's a good-looking young pitcher. What did you say? He's a 12th round draft pick?
12th round pick out of Pima County Junior College.
It's an inexact science, folks. Missed with that one. 2 balls and a strike. A scout can't tell how fast a kid's going to mature or if he is going to mature any further. And he can't scout what's inside, how badly somebody wants it either.
Well, these days, too, they look so much at the physical build of a guy. He's 6'1" and very slightly built at 155 pounds. Maybe they just didn't think he would hold up.
And then there's the radar gun, which I think is the most overused piece of equipment in baseball. I don't think it means anything. Two-1 ripped into right center field. He did not make the catch. Runners will be at first and at third. Powell made a great effort for that ball, but he couldn't hang on. And they're on the corners with nobody out. That'll be a hit. Boy, I see what you mean about his outfield play. He made a great effort here.
Yeah, I thought this might have a chance to be extra bases. Instead, he almost catches it. Made a nice sliding stop to keep it from getting by him, and then a nice relay also by Veras. And almost got Jarvis Brown, who saw the ball drop and then made his turn around second and took off.
And good hustle on his part. If he assumes he's in there, he's a dead man. Well, the 3, 4, and 5 hitters come to the plate. Mordecai, Lopez, and Oliva. As Richmond tries to break out on top. There's a line drive into center. Howell is there. He's got it. Here comes Brown. Here comes the throw. It is offline, and he's safe. Howell threw that thing on the dead run off the wrong foot and made it a fairly close play, but Richmond leads on the sacrifice fly.
RBI number 50 on the year for Mike Mordecai. And there was that one run we were talking about. That may be enough tonight.
Lopez stands in there. We run the first one out.
Looks like they're going to make an appeal at third base, thinking Jarvis Brown left too soon. He's got to toe the rubber, go into the stretch, then step off.
The run stands. Lopez popped out his first time. Second time around the order. Balls but hit a little more sharply. Lopez, 16 homers, 73 runs driven in. He's put together a terrific year. But he pops this one into short right field. Burnett comes on and makes the catch for the second out of the inning. Jose Oliva, the batter. tell you what, if you took the messages off the outfield walls here, put these guys in a major league ballpark and made it so you couldn't see their faces, I don't think fans would be able to tell whether or not it's a major league game. Do you? I mean, the skill level might be slightly lower, but the competitive level is every bit as good.
Oh, competitive-wise, you bet. There's a lot of pride out there. Tonight, you wouldn't. Maybe another night where you don't have pitchers the quality of Birkbeck and Hakame, you would definitely know the difference.
That's the difference of 3 or 4 major league, 5, 6 major league prospects or types on these teams as opposed to.
That's right. You got on each side, you've got 3 or 4 guys who are certainly capable of playing in the big leagues right now. In the major leagues, you got a roster of 25 basically.
0-2 is the count.
And I think that is a very accepted fact of life as far as the quality of play and as far as the talent. For the owners would have tested that a long time ago with replacement players.
That's right. Pop right side. Burnett's a long way to run. Shows the second baseman. And it is Veras who makes the catch. He covered a lot of ground to get to that ball. The inning comes to a close. An unearned run for Richmond on 1 hit, 1 error, 1 left at the end of 4. Richmond 1. Norfolk nothing.
1-0 Richmond as we go to the top half of the 5th inning. And a reminder that Sunday night at 8 o'clock, John Elway leads the Denver Broncos into Texas Stadium to face the 2-time Super Bowl champion Dallas Cowboys and their new coach Barry Switzer. That's on TNT Sunday at 8 o'clock.
Where did Switzer coach before he went to Dallas?
Well, it wasn't Missouri.
No, that's right.
Well, they might have won a couple of national championships.
Yeah, they might have done that too. We go to the 5th inning. Sean Hare will lead it off. Birkbeck will try to get Hare to hit a high hopper here. Nobody on or out. 5th inning. 1-0 Richmond.
That Birkbeck breaking ball's a beauty, isn't it?
Birkbeck can break him off, baby. 1-1 the count. That curveball tailed over the outside corner to Hare. 1-2 the count. Let up, line down the left field line. That's trouble into the corner. Over fast and up with it is Heath. Hare on his way to second. The throw is offline, or they might have had him. It'll be a double. So just like that, the tying runs in scoring position.
18th double of the year for Sean Hare. Just sliced one down the line. Lee Heath made a nice play, and you're right. If this throw is on the bag, they've nailed him. Good, strong throw, but just a little bit off the mark. Took a little bit of a funny hop right there on the edge of the grass, too.
Joe Kamak, the batter. One ball, no strikes. Runner at second, nobody out. Top of the 5th. At the knees. 1-1. Kamak, Greg Graham, and Pat Howell have a chance to at least tie things up here for the Tides, who are yet to lose a game at the Diamond this year. Good breaking ball fouled up.
It's an interesting series they have. They're only separated by 100 miles, so they play 5 straight days, twice here, and they play 2 games in Norfolk, and then back here on Monday to play back here at the Diamond.
The Norfolk team, if it's night game after night game, buses back and forth each day. Richmond, when they go down there, normally stays. Just a difference in philosophy, I guess. A ball and 2 strikes. Did he go? Yeah. Kamak argues about it, but he's out of there, one away. A big strikeout. The runner's still at second.
Second time he has fanned Kamak. So didn't think he went after this pitch, but home plate umpire Mark Mosbeach said he did, and I agree with him.
Greg Graham is the batter. He grounded to short his first time. 1-0 Richmond is our score. Ernie and Don will join you when this half inning concludes. And it will be their responsibility to select the Holiday Inn player of the game tonight. The 0-1 pitch. Outside to Graham. It's 1-1.
Graham's out of Bowling Green, makes his home now in Bowling Green, Kentucky, born in Owensboro. Switch hitter.
The bat has been his problem. That's one difference between AAA. If a guy's a prospect and he's struggling, you might go a lot longer with him than you would at the major league level. Everybody wants to win every game, but development comes first.
That's why Brad Clontz is now the closer for the Richmond Ball Club instead of Terry Clark.
Terry Clark did a great job, but they want to see how the kid can do. Graham is out of there. Boy, the bottom really dropped out on that baby.
This one came right over the top. He's been working the outside corner, but now he comes down and in a little bit to the left-handed batter, and that is a good pitch.
Pat Corrales, Clarence Jones. Braves coaches in the audience tonight.
Frank Fultz also.
Frank Fultz, the conditioning trainer, is there as well.
They were working with the guys underneath the stadium tonight. Since they didn't get to hit on the field, they have underground cages. Under the stadium cages, I should say. Oh, and Mike Cubbage in the hat, 2 down from Frank. Third base coach for the Mets, who just lives down the road in Charlottesville, Virginia, I believe. Over to see their AAA ball club.
Tell you what, Williamsburg and Charlottesville, some of those towns are just wonderful places to visit. If you have an interest in history.
Charlottesville, is that the home of the University of Virginia?
I believe so, yeah. Pat Howell is the batter, and the breaking ball misses. He was out on strikes on a curveball his first time. The runner Hare doubled to start the inning. He's still there with 2 out, a couple of Birkbeck strikeouts. See if he can get Pat Howell here and get out of the inning. Fastball lined into right for a hit. In fast, Brown, throw to the plate is going to be in time, and he is out, and a great play by Perez. That was a 2-hop throw, and he came up with it and still kicked him off the plate and made the tag, and the inning is over. We'll see it again as we go out.
Nice low throw by Jarvis, too. Could have been cut if need be, but Eddie makes a nice scoop on a short hop and still able to hang on to it and be aware where the runner is. Nice job defensively.
Okay, we're back here at Richmond. And Don Sutton, we talked before the game even started that this could be a pitcher's battle.
Boy, it is, too. Well, we have 2 guys, Ernie, who have had major league experience. Birkbeck has been up. He's a good curveball pitcher. Usually in the minor leagues, if you can throw curveballs for strikes, you're going to win. And, hey, Jason Hockamy proved pitching against the Braves in New York. He knows how to pitch. Only reason he's here is because of the strike. He was 4-3 at the big league level. So you're right. 2 guys who can pitch.
The only reason Hockamy lost is he's pitching against Maddox. He allowed 2 runs in 7 innings. Here we go with a fastball low. He's got good stuff. Perez is the batter. Popped the second the first time up. An enthusiastic crowd, and the pitch is low. It was sold out, 12,500. The chicken helped, but the Braves of Richmond have played well. They're only a game out of first. And the next pitch is low.
Well, I'm glad we
beautiful play.
Glad we got a chance to work with you tonight. Might explain to our friends why Pete isn't here.
Well, Pete's son, Steve, is getting married. And I don't know I know Steve will handle it, but I don't know about Pete and Elaine, really.
Think we ought to hurry home, see what we can do to help.
Ball 4 to Perez. Now Lee Heath, who was a late entry. He was not in the original starting lineup. He's playing left field. He struck out the first time. Grady Little's done a great job here. As usual, he's done another good job. Any place you put him. He was at Greenville for a while. There's a bunt, and it is a good bunt. Out at first. Boy, Heath dropped down a beauty. They might go sacrifice on it, but he's trying to beat it out.
Should be, and this is a good play by Hakami, too. He knows he has a guy with speed, comes over in a hurry. Bare hands, the only chance he's got to make that play. Gave the throw inside the hair so he could get to it. A little insurance now out at second base.
Grady Little, boy. Down home country boy. Pitches inside.
Good article in yesterday's Richmond paper about Grady Little, saying how his chances of being manager of the year in the International League are very good. Remember, he's a guy that led Greenville to, what, 108, 109 wins or something like that a couple years ago?
Yes, and that's a trick when you only play about 130. 1 ball, 1 strike.
He's done a good job here because I think there were a lot of guys sent here that people thought maybe needed a couple of years before they were AAA players, and now all of a sudden you're looking at guys who might be in the big leagues next year.
A looper that has a chance, and it falls safe. There's the second baseman, overran it. He's looking back over his shoulder, and it never got to him. So a little pop fly single, runners first and third.
Well, he ran a good pattern and got open, just couldn't get the ball to him right off the end of the bat. And I think the swing might have fooled him because you can see him there. He ran to where he thought the ball was going to be. And when he did finally pick up the ball, he was about 6 feet beyond it. That's one of life's embarrassing moments, and a break for the Braves.
That'll bring on Kelly. I should say Birkbeck.
That's only the second hit of the night for the Braves. They have 1 run that they got in 4th inning, but it was unearned. An error by Hakami got the inning started.
Pitching coach Bob Apodaca. We used to have a lot of fun with that name when he pitched for the Mets. Apodaca. Done a good job for the Tides.
I think this is about, 25 consecutive years in the Mets organization for Apodaca. He pitched there for a while, got hurt, stayed in the organization, had a number of tasks, and he is a highly respected AAA pitching coach. A lot of people that you talk to think that it won't be long before Bob Apodaca is in the big leagues.
Well, Birkbeck has his instructions. He talked with Bruce Kim. He's squaring to bunt. I think what he's doing, he's not trying to get the runner in from third as much as maybe get the runner to second. And that keeps you out of a double play.
Now, you know it's not a squeeze if a guy turns around and shows bunt.
They're afraid when a pitcher bats, he'll hit into the double play. So the bunt, and there's late covering, and he still got over there. There is almost embarrassed himself. He didn't get over. Anyone with any more speed beats that ball out. Sacrifice goes 1-4.
Guarantee you he was standing out there still thinking about that little pop that he overran, Ernie, and almost forgot there was still a ball game going on. Good job by Birkbeck. There's so many different ways a pitcher can help himself, and offensively, that's one of them right there, by sacrificing, giving yourself up, and getting down a good bunt.
You can field your position, bunt. There's a lot of ways to win ball games besides just pitching. Here's Jarvis Brown looking for his first hit. He's 0 for 2, reached on an error last time. Strike call. You'll never forget the home run that he hit Candlestick, Jarvis Brown.
Done a good job down here with men in scoring position.
A lot of players on both teams here have played in the major leagues. There's some talent right out on this field. The Braves a game out of first place.
Well, you see that a lot at the AAA level because you see it's almost like a finishing school for the major league, and then you'll see some guys going back who maybe need to work on one little thing, and then there's some guys who may be just on their way out of a big league career.
Now this line foul down the right side. Here's the standings in the Western Division.
The top 2 teams in both divisions go into the playoffs.
Charlotte's lost 9 out of their last 10, so they're on a slide, and Richmond with a chance to win this division. Excellent chance. Of course, they got to watch out for Columbus, too. And a pitch. A little bit high. This guy throws hard.
He can throw hard, but when you watch him pitch, Ernie, I think he holds that in reserve, much like Tom Glavine does. He'll go down and away with sinking fastball, changeup, breaking ball. Every now and then he gets 2 strikes, he'll do just what he does there, come up top with that fastball. You get a lot of guys to swing it.
1-2. There's a change outside, 2-2. Speaking of Tom Glavine, he's a player rep, and I'm sure that he's wondering if he's going to be one of the players selected. He could be. They're going to have some players selected to sit in with the other owners. They're going to start meeting next Tuesday. 2-2. Hit off the end of the bat foul. Two balls, 2 strikes.
Well, they keep you up to date on everything up here in this press box, don't they? Columbus and Charlotte, then Kansas.
Line caught by the third sacker. Brown lined it. It was caught by Butch Husky. The Braves strand 2. We're going to the 6th. 1-0 Richmond.
That's a diamond duck. And friend, top of the 6th inning, 1-0 Richmond. Time for our Aflac trivia question, and here it is. Who was the 1993 International League Rookie of the Year? I think I know this one, Ernie. We'll have the answer for you at the end of this half inning.
Okay, here's Hockamy. Pretty good hitter. He had a base hit off Maddox on his first time at bat in New York a few weeks back. And this, on tonight's first at bat, he drove the ball deep to right field. So he's unlike pitchers. This guy can hit. 1-0. Ball is outside, 2-0. I want to say hi to some Vermonters that are looking in tonight. Batch Carroll and Francis Casey, rather. I'm sorry, Francis Casey. Pittsburgh, Vermont. They're watching. Still, we're trying to work on their golf game.
Ernie, Dana, Christine Howell back in Cumming, Georgia, looking in. Her daddy Jay Howell on strike, and mom's taking in laundry to kind of supplement the income till it's over.
There's ball 4. That's not a good way to start. That's the first walk by Birkbeck.
Birkbeck does not look comfortable right now. I don't know if he is hurting or if he is just maybe for that hitter got out of sync, but more than once during that at bat we saw him kind of walk around the mound and kind of not stay in the same groove he was in.
33-year-old right-hander who won 13 here last year. Won 10 so far this year. ERA good, under 3. And the bunt, and it's going to be fielded by the pitcher. Throw to first. He got it. Kelly got over there. The throw was a little wild, but the play was made on a sack, and they've got the tying run at second.
That's a heck of a play by Kelly. He's got time here. Looks like the throw might have slipped. Heads over the bag. Kelly's there, takes it, goes in the foul territory quickly, out of the way. Take a look from this angle how far he had to go in there and how quick he had to get out of the way. That could have been a heck of a collision. Good play on both ends.
Don DeCenzo, who's been in the major leagues. He's 0 for 2. Little guy. Not a home run threat, but he can hit those tweeners. And the pitch. There's a strike. They're playing him rather shallow in the outfield, especially left and center. You can see there that they're more or less saying he's not a long ball hitter. Outside.
Birkbeck is not 100%. And again, I'll bet you it's either groin pull or something with the leg, because watch him as he completes his delivery. He doesn't follow all the way through like he did, and then kind of walks gingerly back up.
Curveball outside. Took a look into the dugout right then.
You'll have to have a guy like this on every pitching staff. He is a gamer, works very hard, has a system he stays within. He's very structured, said Brian Bark.
Hit toward third. Nice play at third. Throw. He got it. What a play by Oliva. Oliva showed the Atlanta fans that he can field. Of course, the Richmond fans have always known that, but it looks like he might have hurt himself.
He landed kind of hard here. Watch the ball off the end of the bat. You're not expecting this if you're the third baseman. Gets it, comes up to his knees, takes a look at second, gets a lot on it. On the other end, nice stretch there by Luis Lopez. Watch on the other end. Lopez shortens this throw by a good 2 feet. The difference in that play right there by Lopez. Good stretch, good play on both ends.
The runner holding at second. Johnson.
That's Judd Johnson. We got to look at him in the exhibition game down in Atlanta early in the year. White Sox or Baltimore, one of the two. Seems like forever ago, doesn't it?
Yeah. Judd Johnson throwing. 2 down now. Burnitz. And the pitch. Almost nicked him.
Bergbeck has a great sign in his locker, Ernie. It says, make the right pitch most of the time and you win.
Yeah, no one can do it every time.
A lot of guys have, you know, writing on their cap bill. You probably see it more in college and the minor leagues than you do in the big leagues on their glove.
Curveball caught the corner. That's the backdoor curve.
He has 2 curveballs. He has a short one he likes to start off hitters with, throw it for a strike. Then most of the time ahead in the count, he tries to catch the outside corner against the left-handed hitters with that backdoor hook.
2 outs, runner second. Time call. Burnett's got a little tired of waiting as they use the indicator set aside. And the next pitch is just a little bit outside. 3-1.
You get this time of the ball game, if you're a little bit tired, maybe get a little bit later in the ball game, you make a pitch like that, you want the call because you made an out pitch. Now all of a sudden you have to make another one. 3-1, you may have to make 2 of them.
He made 1 of them.
I asked him about that curveball. I said, is there a count when you won't throw it? He said, no, I'll throw it 3-0. I feel like, and he said, it's kind of hard to explain to people. He said, I feel like I can control my curveball as well as I can control my fastball. And he's shown that a number of times tonight.
3 balls and 2 strikes. And the fastball was low. That is a walk to Burnitz. Bringing up Husky. Husky singled the first time up and flied to left. Birkbeck's second walk in this inning and second walk of the ball game. Here comes old Grady. Bill Fisher's a pitching coach.
He may be out to check on the physical status of his right-hander. Grady Little's the kind of guy that I think if you're a youngster who wants to make it to the big leagues, you'd love to play for him. He has a sense of humor. So he's looking down at his foot and asking him about it. He has a sense of humor. He has a good work ethic. He expects you to show up, be on time, do your job. But I mean, this is not a chain gang here, and it's you know, it's not a concentration camp. He lets the guys have some fun, and he's a part of it.
He will stay in and pitch to Husky. Guy's a pretty good hitter. Their cleanup hitter. And the curveball nestles in there. 0-1.
Find out very quickly what a pitcher believes in when he gets in a jam, don't you?
Yes. That's curve. in this particular case. Now an 0-1. Missed outside with a hard one. 1 ball, 1 strike. Akame is at second. Burnitz is at first. And a very well-pitched game on both sides. Only been 6 hits in the game. And the curve is outside. It's a well-played game. 1 error. Capacity crowd. The Diamond holds 12,500. It's an outstanding place. They've got luxury boxes. They have everything that Major League stadiums have, but a few fewer seats. 3 balls, 1 strike. Are you going to look at it?
More signs in the outfield. I kind of like that.
Yes. That's the old minor league tradition. 3-1 pitch. It's over. 3-2.
But I found them all in the outfield. The car, the fast food, the soft drink, the beer, but I haven't found the mortuary. There is always one mortuary sign.
Two. Runners go. Little pop on the right side. I don't know if it'll stay in. It's going to. Lopez makes the catch. 2 are stranded. We go to the bottom of the 6th, and the Braves hold on 1-0.
Chicken's got an accomplice. It looks like Jessica Diamond's friend Barney is there. Time for us to answer our Aflac trivia question. Ernie, here it is, a reminder. Who was the '93 International League Rookie of the Year? Was it Chipper Jones? Yes, it was.
He's home watching. He'll be ready for next year. I'm telling you, the Chicken is beside himself here tonight. He's come up with a few new acts. He had 4 little chicks out with him before. Of course, he doesn't. He's not allowed to do many things in the major leagues. In fact, you very seldom see him booked in the major leagues, but in the minor leagues, he's a big attraction.
Usually we're at least double the attendance when he shows up, too. He's good. Ted Gianolis from San Diego.
There's a single to right field by Coates. Coates is a good hitter. And we'll always remember him from spring training. And I hope we have another one. Last year, spring training in Vero Beach, Bobby brought him along. We didn't know very much about him because they plucked him right out of the minor league camp. We're playing the Dodgers, and I think it went extra innings. They called on him. He's about the last player left. He hit the ball out of the ballpark.
I think he was the last guy on the bench other than pitchers.
Braves won it, and Coates was the hero. He hasn't hurt himself this year with 50 RBIs and a batting average of 290 with 2 hits here tonight. And this kid, he's just got a base hit off, has the stuff of a major leaguer. Here's Mordecai. Hit toward third, but foul. Mike Mordecai just missed a double.
Hey, if that had been fair, it wouldn't have been any surprise the way he has hit lefties this year. Look at that. About 130 points higher. Half a dozen homers and only 92 ABs.
You know what's fun about doing this game, or any of these AAA games for the Richmond Braves, is the fact that you're looking at some kids that are going to be playing for the Atlanta Braves. A lot of times you don't see that in an organization. Right. But they just run them up, run them past you. And there they are. Lopez and Klesko and guys like that all played at Richmond. Chipper Jones. There's a fastball just missing outside. And we're happy that Stan Kasten extended John Sherhill's contract to 1999.
Johnson's still throwing down there. Would lead you to believe he's going to come on and pitch in the 7th inning, Ernie, and Birkbeck's night may be over.
Runner going, fouled away. 2 balls and 2 strikes. He didn't seem to be pitching the same way, Birkbeck. It looked like he was favoring his leg or something.
Yeah, I think either his foot or his leg, because you remember when Grady Little came to the mound, the first thing he did is look down, either at his knee or at his foot. Hopefully nothing serious, because he has had himself a good year this year. If he can hang on and win this one, hopefully he can. It'll be his 11th win of the year. Any more with the restriction on innings and pitches, double figures in the minor leagues, a good year.
Foul away, look out. He hit it over the first base dugout, and the gentleman caught it one-handed. No glove, bare hand catch. There he is. That's my dad. He just reached up and plucked that like he's picking cherries.
I think that is one of those self-defense catches where he really didn't have time to think about it.
Think about what he was doing.
That's
Might break a finger for that $5 baseball. Runner goes. Throw to second. He's going to be out of there. A good throw. Nails Kolitz.
No doubt about Kamak's ability to throw. Comes out of there in a hurry. He's a one-step thrower. The throw a little bit upstairs, but he got it there in such a good time that Veras had a chance to get it down. Yeah, I'd say he's pretty good. That's almost 50%.
You got Kolitz, who had stolen 18 bases. There's a bouncer to short. On to first. And 2 down. Now Louis Lopez. Louis wanted to be called Louis. He didn't want to be called Luis. Louis Lopez.
5-game hitting streak on the line. He is 9 out of his last 20.
73 RBIs. He's got a little sting in that bat. It's 402 to dead center here. 330 down the foul line. And a lot of billboards. That makes it in the minor leagues. There's a lot of their income out there.
This guy, a testimonial to perseverance. His first year was back in 1983 in the Dodgers organization. Up in the big leagues briefly with L.A. A little time with Cleveland. Last year was Charlotte.
Driven to right field, in for a base hit. A line drive single to right. So the hits are even at 4. Here's Jose Oliva with 21 round trippers. 5-game hitting streak. Jose's got some sock. He came up and played with the Braves. Never missed a beat. 0-1. That was a changeup.
He's strong enough, too, and I was reading one of the articles in one of the papers here. One of the things they'd like for him to do is just to be a little bit less aggressive. Not in his attitude about playing, Ernie, but a little bit more control in his swing. He's strong enough that he can whistle that ball out the right center field. But a lot of times he pulls off of the pitch, and especially on the first pitch as he did on that changeup.
A 1-1. Hit toward third. They go the short way. Then the inning's over. That does it for 6. We go to the 7th. The Richmond Braves won. And the Norfolk Tides, nothing. All right, we're going to the 7th inning. Here's our Budweiser game summary. The real pitcher's battle. Birkbeck's gone 6. He's out of there now. 5 strikeouts, 2 walks. Hakame 6 innings, unearned run. The Braves will take it. Mordecai got the run home with a sac fly. We're going to the 7th. Here's Don.
All right, Ernie, thank you very much. Judd Johnson will be the new pitcher. Left-hander, you got to look at exhibition games down in Atlanta. You see his numbers. 68 innings, 70 hits. He struck out 41. For Birkbeck, 6 innings, 4 hits, struck out 5, walked 2, didn't give up a run, had himself a real good night. Good curveball, good pitching by Mike Birkbeck. Hare 1 out of 2, a double, and he's grounded into a double play. A little chin music, and it's 1-0. Judd Johnson out of Portsmouth, Ohio. 6 feet tall, just a shade under 200. Braves signed him as a free agent back in 1988. Spent his first year in Idaho Falls. Down low, it's 2-0. Last year right here in this ballpark, he made 49 appearances, 4-2 with a 2.6 earned run average. Usually a good control pitcher. 2-1 to count. I was reading over some stuff today, Ernie, just thinking about the minor leagues. 1950 wasn't that long ago, was it? Or it doesn't seem like it to you and me.
Only 43 years.
There
Not
were
very long ago.
60 minor leagues at that time.
Everything was different in the minor leagues and in baseball in those years. You could have as many minor league teams as you wanted, really, because it didn't cost very much. No one made any money, and you could even sign players just to play minor league baseball. They don't sign them to play minor league baseball anymore. When they sign a player today, they expect them to make the major leagues.
Ground ball toward second. Kelly is there. One gone here in the 7th inning. That'll bring up Joe Kamak. He's 0 for 2. He struck out twice swinging. I'll bet you there were some times when you would have, say, a franchise like this who might have, I don't know, 19 of their players, and there might be a good-looking guy around here who could play a little bit, might sign him to complete the roster. Local talent.
Could do that, and
I remember that happening in Class D ball in Pensacola.
I remember in Milwaukee Brewers when they were minor league baseball in 49, 50, and 51. They had some ex-major leaguers that were in their 30s playing, and they weren't interested really that much in developing young players. They were interested in winning games, so fans would come out.
Johnson behind again in the count. It's 2-0 to the catcher. One run, 4 hits for the Braves. No runs, 4 hits for the Tides. That's a foul ball, and it's 2-1. I'm sorry, go ahead.
There were a lot of minor league leagues around it. They were all over the place. I can remember the Braves having like 2 A teams, 2 B teams. They had C teams, D teams, even a couple of double A teams, and maybe 1 or 2 triple A teams. But I mean, you had more opportunity to play in those days.
There's a base hit for Kamak. That's the 5th hit of the night for the Norfolk Tides. He represents a tying run. Greg Graham, the hitter. Grounded to short, and he struck out swinging. What was the biggest number of people you ever saw coming into a spring training like in the minor league?
When I got out of the service in 1946, I reported to Greenwood, Mississippi. I think the number on my back was like 89 or 93.
Wide receiver.
There was so many players from everywhere, and they didn't mind bringing you in. That's why I say you had more of an opportunity to make the major leagues in those days, because they would stay with you. I mean, I played 6 years in the minor leagues myself. Some guys played 7 and 8 before they got a chance in the major leagues. But today, really, if you don't produce in 3 or 4 or 5 years looking like you're really going to do something, they'll release you.
No balls and a strike to the Tide shortstop. Out of play, and he's in a hole 0-2. 0 for 2 tonight. He's on a stretch where he could use a base hit. He's 1 out of his last 18.
And money, you know, I don't know what kind of money you made at that point, but
$500 a month, and was dang proud of it.
Yeah, and this was later. What year was
65.
65. Well, my first contract was in 1942, and I made $125 a month. It was Class A. And I got a $100 bonus. I don't know whether it was a bonus or it was expenses. But from then, sometimes it would go to $200, $250, and meal money was nothing. Of course, it didn't cost much to live in those days either.
Right.
So everything, I guess, is relative. But today, I mean, we're going to have a strike, and there's a dispute about salaries and cap and all that. But today, there'd be no doubt in my mind if I was young and ready to play, I would choose baseball over any other sport.
Could be 2. Oliva will go to second. Kelly on to first. In time, double play. Second one of the night turned by the Braves. The second one started by Oliva. Take another look. No runs a hit, no errors, nobody left. 7th inning stretch. Braves on top, 1-0.
Some of the fans here with signs as we go to the bottom of the 7th. Next telecast is Tuesday at Pawtucket. Richmond against Pawtucket. Pawtucket is a farm club of the Boston Red Sox. That'll be Tuesday at 7:35.
Bottom of the 7th inning, 1-0 score. A couple more wouldn't hurt. Perez to lead it off, Heath and Kelly to follow. Perez 0 for 1. He has a walk. That's a foul ball. Bruce Kim coaches down at third. Former teammate of mine, Tack Wilson, coaches over at first.
Talking about Pawtucket Red Sox, they lead their division by 12 games. So they've got it all locked up. They lead the East.
To third baseman, Husky. Over to first, one gone. Now, let me see now. The way that playoff system is set up as we wait for Heath to make his way to home plate. If you're in the second place team, you get the first 2 games. Best 3 out of 5 the first round, I believe. If you're the second place team, you get the first 2 games at home. That ain't a bad idea because you might not get 3 in the other park if you get off to a good start. You win your first 2 at home, you could go win another one, and the team with the best record that wins the division might end up only getting 1 game at home.
Are you talking about the major leagues?
No, I'm talking about in internationally.
Well, I think the same thing in the major leagues.
Is that the way it's going?
I think it is, and they say you have the home field advantage if you have the last 3 games. Well, if you're down 2, that's not much of an advantage.
You could only play 1 there.
Yes.
No balls and 2 strikes to Lee Heath.
I would much rather have the first 2 games at home. I don't care. They could have the other 3. Give me those first 2 games at home. I feel I have the advantage.
Both the preliminary rounds are 3 out of 5, so is the championship round because they have to get through by September 15th. No swing, the call by Brian Gibbons down at first.
Boy, the enthusiasm. I don't know if the strike has generated it or not, but you can feel it here. And I understand around the minor leagues, a lot of people are going to minor league games.
This might be a chance for Hare. Long run, and he makes the play. That's a good play by the Tides first baseman. He had to go a long way down the right field line, and he was running out of real estate.
That's a nice catch. He took a look to find out just where he was, and then made the one-hand catch.
Here's Pat Kelly. He is 1 out of 2. His average up to 275.
I mentioned the minor leagues attendance because while I was home recently, I talked to a neighbor that said that they were going to go to Greenville to watch a minor league game because their kids wanted to go so badly to a ball game. And Macon, Greenville are places the fans in the Southeast can see minor league baseball.
Well, that's a pretty good history right here in Richmond. First year in the International League was back in 1884. They have had 44 years in the International League. Bruce Baldwin, the general manager. Some of the record holders are very familiar to Braves fans. Ralph Garr set the team batting average record, 386. Hal Breeden, 116 RBIs. You remember that name. Chipper Jones last year set the record for most hits, 174. Familiar friend to all of us, Dale Murphy, the record in doubles. Albert Hall scored the most runs. Remember Eddie Miller? He set the stolen base record.
Call me Ed.
Yeah, don't call me Eddie, call me Ed. Longest hitting streak in history here, Junior Moore back in '76. That's out of play. That'll make it 3 balls and 2 strikes to Kelly. If he can get on base, Olmeda has a bat. He is out on deck. That'll take care of the night for Judd Johnson. And he does get on base. Battles him back. Draws the walk. I believe that's only the 2nd walk issued by Hockamy. And here comes Olmeda. Well, Ernie, we were right. We just got a notice from the PR department here. Birkbeck left the game because of a sprain in the first MP joint, the joint behind the big toe on his right foot. It happened on the bunt play. Now being x-rayed, should not miss his next start.
You know, it's important to get a pitcher out of there if anything like that happens because he can alter his style and hurt his arm.
The old Dizzy Dean story, huh?
Well, you'll always remember that. He got hit, broke a toe, and thought that he could come back sooner than he was able, and altered his delivery just a bit, and the whole career went right down the tubes.
Almeida is at 226. Fouls the first one back, and it's 0-1.
When Dean hurt himself, he was not an old man. He won about 150 games, but he could have won 150 more just as easily. But he hurt his arm and couldn't do it.
Almeida was 0 for 3 last night. He's only 14 out of his last 80. He was named the best defensive second baseman in the International League at the beginning of this month by Baseball America. In the air now to play, and he's in a hole 0-2. 1-0 Braves. We're in the bottom of the 7th inning.
Baseball America might be the top newspaper magazine type.
And
they really do
been
a good
around
job.
that long either.
No, it's just been a few years. Kind of taken over.
The Braves a run on 4 hits. The Tides, no runs, 5 hits. They have committed 1 error. It led to the only run of the ballgame. In the air, shallow left. Graham is back. DeCenzo's coming on. It's going to fall in. Good hustle and good base running by Pat Kelly. He's all the way around to third. That'll go as a base hit for Almeida. And the Braves trying to get a little something going with 2 outs.
I thought someone was going to catch this. It was up in the air a long time. Here's DeCenzo coming on. He's yelling, but he couldn't make it. Kelly just kept on going. With 2 down, he has nothing to wait around for, and he gets to third base.
Now, with 2 outs, you see a lot of guys kind of Cadillac that, but he was hustling the whole way. That's how he got to third. Top of the order, Jarvis Brown. He scored the only run of the night, got on an error in the 4th inning. That's Pete Walker heading down to the Tides bullpen. There goes the runner. The throw will go to third. It'll be a stolen base for Almeida. Almeida slowed down just before he got to second. He tried to decoy Kamak into throwing down to second, but he'd have no part of it.
Now we're looking at both runners. Almeida slowed up. I don't think there's anyone really covering second base, so that made the catcher hesitate a bit.
Right at the shortstop. Brown hits it on the button, but right at Graham, and he comes up empty. So do the Braves here in the 7th inning. No runs a hit, no errors, and 2 left. 7 in the books. It's 1-0 Braves. Oh, 1 out.
I didn't think he's going to catch this ball. I thought it was just going to get over his head, and Lopez really made a nice play. Just got in the webbing.
Here's Garcia. Garcia, 258, no homers, 24 RBIs. He had a good day here yesterday, 3 out of 4. Scored a run. He's hit for Richmond pitching well this year, over 300. He's a big guy, big strike zone. On the corner, and it's 1-1. There's a 3-game hitting streak on the line. That's kind of tough, too, when you come up there as a pinch hitter to keep stuff like that going. One and 2 the count. He started the year down in Double-A ball in the Mets organization down at Binghamton, but about halfway through the month of June, they called him up. He was hitting right at 360 in Double-A. Towards second, 1 hopper. Kelly takes his time, 2 gone. Two pinch hitters, 2 outs. Top of the order, Kilvio Veras.
This will probably be the only inning that Terry pitches. They've got.
There's a chance we'll see Brad Klontz.
He's down there warming. Yeah.
Boy, did he do a good job the other night. I'm impressed with him.
Throws from down under. Sometimes you need something like that. If you're a relief pitcher that's Something that's a little unique, a little different.
First pitch to the second baseman is a strike. He's 0 for 2 officially. He does have a sacrifice. There are a number of the Braves folks up here. Pat Corrales is here, Clarence Jones, and Frank Fultz is here, and Frank's wife Pat and the daughters Angie and Natalie out in Highlands Ranch, Colorado, watching the ball game tonight. And ladies, yes, Dad does have a job, and yes, he is here, and yes, he is working. There's a look at the bullpen. That's Michael Potts. He's a lefty, and the man from down under, Brad Quantz. There's a man in the middle.
Pat Corrales. With his new Clarence, Frank.
Forrest Gump haircut.
You see that movie?
Not yet. Good one.
Oh. 4 stars.
1 and 2 the count.
You got to take that one.
That's what's happened to this point. We also want to congratulate Tony and Julie Nardi, married August the 6th. Joe Nardi is the PR assistant here for the R Braves. That's his big brother, and he wants to sing along congratulations, and we join him. 1 and 2 the count. We're at the top of the 8th inning. 1-0 R Braves. Make it 2 and 2.
And I want to say hi to Ricky Haygood and Kelly Hayes, 2 of my friends. It looks like not going to get you to the ball game this year. They were scheduled for Wednesday.
Why don't they meet us in Pawtucket next week? I'll leave them tickets.
And Sunday.
I'm sorry, next
Wish they
Tuesday.
could. Yeah.
Can't get him to go fishing for the changeup, and they've run it full. 3 balls and 2 strikes.
The people you're really sorry for, as far as this strike goes, I've always felt are the shut-ins. People who just can't get out to a baseball game very often. Once in a while they get to a game, but they can always watch on television. And they're really hurt by this whole thing that they can't watch.
Payoff pitch to Veras. On the ground, but foul. Still 3 and 2. We'll try it again. Terry Clark was 63 strikeouts in 71 innings. He's only allowed a half a dozen homers. He's pitched well in this ballpark. 1-0 with a 2.6 earned run average. This is his 25th ball game here at home.
And he had to suck it up a bit because he was their closer for most of the year. Ponce was at Greenville.
Here's ball 4. Veras represents the tying run as he trots down the first. Pretty good threat to steal. He has tried 49. He's been successful 32 times, so he can run. This is the 5th ball game against the Tides that Clark has been in.
Hard to realize the Richmond Braves haven't won a game this year at this stadium.
Isn't that amazing? 0-7 here and 6-1 in Norfolk.
Against the Tides.
That's somewhat backwards. Here's DeCenzo. Go to first, but Veras back on his hands and knees. DeCenzo 0 for 3. Slide to left. He's twice grounded out. Most recently in the big leagues with the Chicago Cubs. He is a pesky little hitter in a tough little strike zone.
Their PR department's got a sense of humor.
Out of play, and it's 0-1.
We got some notes here. I just mentioned 0-7 versus the Tides here. They're 3-9 when the crowd in excess of 10,000 attends the game at the Diamond. Tonight's game is sold out. Strike 3. They're just wondering what's going to happen. When the Braves played home on Fridays, they're 1-6.
Sounds like it's not a good night to...
Yeah, they should be on the road or something.
Unless you believe in the law of averages, and if you do, then it's about time for some catching up. Top of the 8th, 1-0 Braves. Good size lead at first. There's a strike, and it's 0-2. That's one of the best ways to combat those stolen bases with 2 outs, isn't it? Throw strikes.
Yeah.
I got something I want to run past you after this inning's over when we come back in the bottom half. Another good lead at first by Veras. The 0-2 pitch. Instead to throw to first, close. That's a quick move by Clark over there. He may have caught Veras leaning towards second.
Well, you know, a balk could have been called there.
You don't think he dipped that front knee just a little bit?
Might have dipped it, and he might have thrown the ball before he even stepped. I mean, it was...
Pitchers would not do that.
Oh. Do anything you can get away with.
He's going. There's the pitch out to throw to second. He's a dead duck. Can Perez throw or what? Perez has thrown out over 40% of the base runners who've tried to steal against the Braves, and he guns down Veras. Here's a look. Nothing doing in the 8th inning for the Tides. On time, we move to the bottom of the 8th. 1-0 Braves. Bottom of the 8th, 1-0 to score. Braves looking for a little insurance. Batcher stays in and plays center field. The Tides are going to have a new pitcher. There's a look at the right-hander, Pete Walker, out of Beverly, Massachusetts. Now makes his home in East Lynn, Connecticut. You know where that is, don't you?
Oh, yes, that's right near home.
There's a look at his numbers for the year.
Lynn, Mass has turned out a lot of good athletes.
Out of play, and it's 1-1 to Coates. Coates flied to left. He has singled twice, got thrown out trying to steal. His average climbing steadily toward 300s. He's at 292. Down low.
I know modesty won't probably compel you to talk about it yourself, but what? You were a part of this quiz here at the stadium. Was it 7 shutouts in one? What was that?
9.
9 shutouts in 1 year?
1972.
Oh!
9.
I want to get you on credit on TV, too.
2 balls and 2 strikes.
So it paid off to write that letter. Why don't you make this a part of it? I know.
Here's the 2-2 pitch upstairs, 3-2. It was ERA somewhere around 2, right?
Oh.
2.
I had a shutout once. Took about 9 years. We scored 16 runs.
And you made it stand up?
I made it stand up.
Toward third. That's going to get back into the crowd. Husky is over to take a look, but he'll watch it sail into the crowd. Still 3-2. You have heard me talk a number of years about pitching coach Red Adams out in Los Angeles my years there.
Oh, yeah.
Red used to fondly tell us about, you know, you see some guys who didn't want to maybe go 9. They wanted to get out of there after 7 innings. He said, well, hey, I jerked up a 17-hit complete game one night. I said, that's a lot of pitches. You come back on 4 days? He said, yeah. I said, what'd you do the next time? In the air to center field and deep. A long run for Batcher, but he's under it. He's got it. 1 gone. And Mike Mordecai is the hitter. I said, well, gee, you have to throw in all those pitches. What'd you do your next time up? He said, I threw a little nifty little 21 hitter at him. You were out there till an invasion at that time. Here's Mordecai. Mike is grounded out twice, but laid down a sacrifice, or got a sacrifice fly. He is the only RBI of the game. Michael Mordecai out of Birmingham, Alabama. Out of play, and it's 0-1. Oh, I know what I wanted to ask you earlier. Let me see if I can find it here. Did he go around? Yes, he did. Didn't want to, didn't mean to, but he's not going to get away with that one. Mike's going to say, I was just trying to get out of the way of it.
I think he swung at it, too. Yeah, he did.
So he's in a hole 0-2. A call down at first base by Brian Gibbons.
Who's that home plate ump again?
Mark.
Well, he has a second name, doesn't he?
I don't know, but he has a last name, too. 1 and 2. It is not Joe Hesketh. Iramowski. I'll bet you Skip didn't try that one, did he? There's a look.
You're the only one that's tried it.
Don't you wish Mike Schmidt was at third for this? There's a strike. Mordecai is gone. 2 outs in the inning. Here's what I wanted to ask you. Louis Lopez heads to the plate. Braves' first year in Atlanta was 1966. They had a Richmond Braves team here. Listen to this starting lineup. Manuel Samuel at shortstop. Ethan Blackaby in right field. Billy Cowan in center. Batting cleanup and playing first base, Jim Beecham.
Right.
And the late Tommy Aaron In left field, Billy Southworth at third, Marv Breeding at second, Ed Sadowski was the catcher, and left-hander Dick Kelly on the mound.
That was 1965. That was 65. The Braves from Milwaukee were allowed to come in 66. Took it wrong.
Thank you for
clearing that up.
There's a strike, and it's 1-1. Boy, the names really changed over the years, but some of the great ones have come through here.
One of the great trivia questions is who played first base for the Braves in 1966, the first year they were in Atlanta. No one could think of Lee Thomas.
No.
He was the first sacker. He's the general manager of the Phillies now.
1-2 the count. Glenn Hubbard spent some time, polished his skills here before coming on up. One of the best throwing arms ever to go through the National League. Oscar Brown spent some time here. On the ground. Graham has it. Long throw. Dug out of the dirt in time. Nice play on both ends. Braves go quietly here in the 8th inning. 3 up, 3 down. We head to the 9th. They'll turn it over to the closer. 3 outs, and the Braves come away with a win. 1-0 Richmond.
All right, we're going to the 9th. Richmond leads it 1-0. They bring on their ace, Clance, and what a year he's had. Look what he did in Greenville before coming up here. I want to make a correction, too. I thought Don, when he was reading the Richmond Braves of 66, was talking about the Braves coming to Atlanta. The Richmond Braves here in 66, that was the lineup. So my error. First one I made in my lifetime.
Well, you're entitled to one.
But when you think of it,
39. About time you made one.
When you think about it, the Atlanta Crackers of 65, Skip was a broadcaster there. Few people don't realize that. He was broadcasting Cracker games on baseball. That was the first time I met him.
DeCenzo to lead it off in the 9th inning. First pitch from Clance, misses outside, 1-0. This is his 15th game for the R Braves. 16 innings, 17 strikeouts, 6 base on balls. A little out of the Gene Garber, Kent Tekulve mold. Except he has a little more giddy up on that fastball. I asked pitching coach Bill Fisher about him, and he said he is consistently in the 90s. And he throws that frisbee slider that you see a lot of right-handers take some ugly swings.
It almost goes up.
Yep.
And he wants it away from right-handed batters.
That's outside, and it's 2-1. A run on 5 hits for the Braves. There's Bill Fisher.
Along with our skipper.
Grady Little there on your left.
Yeah. I'll tell you one thing about Fisher. When he pitched in the major league, he set some sort of a record like
85 innings in a row without a walk.
Yeah.
Throw it over the plate, and he preaches that here, too. There's a strike. May have been a gift for Clance, but he'll take it. DeCenzo doesn't think so, and it's 2-2.
When you throw pitches like this, and I know from experience because I used to sidearm on occasion and some days more than others, but left-handers give you more of a problem than righties because you just don't know where to throw that curveball.
Right down the middle. Well, the 9th starts in good fashion. Clance gets DeCenzo. 1 gone.
This is the fastball, I believe. Yes, it was. Right in the middle. Surprised him. He was probably looking for a breaking ball. But when you throw against right-handed batters, you can throw that sidearm curve and it goes away, and you just try to keep it away. But when you're throwing to a left-handed batter, it goes right in on their power, and if you make a mistake and hang it, you're in trouble.
Here's Burnett's 1 out of 2 with a strikeout, a walk, and a stolen base. First pitch strike, 0-1. You get it debated back and forth as to whether or not this is more of a strain than throwing overhand, but a lot of people I talk to think that it's more natural to throw down under than it is over the top.
Doctors have told you that throwing this way, you have less chance of hurting your arm. It's a natural way to throw because your arm hangs down that way. But
those guys, when they throw, have a 90-degree angle with the shoulder and the arm. You watch him. By turning his head over and by dipping down, he keeps that 90-degree angle. A ball and a strike to Burnett. 1-0 Braves, top of the 9th inning. Got him, 1-2.
That was a changeup, and that's what you need to develop. Some sort of a changeup, especially against left-handed batters when you're sidearm or submariner, if you will.
Ernie told you earlier, a sellout crowd here. The announced attendance, 12,316. A good night at the Diamond in Richmond. There's that Frisbee sailor, stays upstairs, and it's 2-2.
They're moving in on $500,000 for the year.
It's a great ballpark. Very hospitable folks. 2 places we have been to do Richmond Braves. We have been treated kindly, and we thank you. Still 2-2. Thanks not just for those of us who sit up here with the microphones, but from everybody who, all the people it takes to bring you Braves baseball. That's got to get foul back into the bullpen. Still 2 balls and 2 strikes.
This has been a good ball game. It's fast. It's 1-0. Seen some good plays in the field. Good pitching, of course, and only 1 error.
Well, you said earlier when you and I opened on radio, this had all the earmarks of a pitching duel, and it's turned out to be just that. A battle from Burnett's, and it's still 2-2. We got most of the names right.
I hope. Pete said it was going to be tough. He was quoted in the paper saying, well, it's not quite the same when you're doing minor league baseball. I got a little more research.
Speaking of research, the Braves PR department here has been done double duty helping us in that category, too. A rocket, but foul. Burnett's is saying, Clance, if you want this save, you're going to earn it. And it's still 2-2. Burnett spent some time in Shea Stadium this year. We saw him last game that we did out of New York. Pretty good ratio. Only 3 saves that didn't turn out in the plus column for Brad Clance. Comebacker, booted, still has time, but the throw is high and away. Bounced off the railing, so he is not awarded second base. Bobby Valentine's going to come out and argue that one. And that may have taken a bite out of Clance's chin. Jim Lovell, the trainer, while the small argument takes place, and Grady Little out to take a look at their reliever.
Let's take a look. Comes from down under the ball. I thought hit his glove. It did, and then bounced up. Might have grazed his chin. But when he threw to first, he had it in the palm of his hand and got nothing on it. Threw a palm ball to first, and it hit the camera. And that camera might have saved Richmond for the time. Watch where the ball goes.
Let's take a look and see if Bobby Valentine does have a legitimate beef. I'm not sure if our camera there is in play. It is outside of the dugout steps. But it's an argument he is not going to win. I think they scored that a base hit.
Yeah, they did.
So the tying run stands at first base. Butch Husky, the hitter, he is 1 out of 3. A single, a fly to left, and a pop to first. It'd be interesting to see how this big guy swings at that breaking ball. Well, he takes the fastball, and it's 0-1.
If he throws that curveball, he wants to get it going away. Doesn't want to hang it. Going to hurt your third baseman. There it is. He threw it too far outside.
1-1 to count. Husky born in Anadarko, Oklahoma. Now makes his home in Lawton, Oklahoma. There were a couple of Griffith brothers who came out of Anadarko, Oklahoma, who played some Major League Baseball. A couple of very talented guys coming out of a small town. Throw to first, but not too much of a chance. Burnett's can run. He's 14 out of 18, but they're not going to be taking any chances right here. Off the end of the bat, another chance for Clance. This time he makes sure. Didn't even look at second. He's going to take that second out. 1-3 if you're keeping score. He needs one more out. And Sean Hare, the hitter. Hare has grounded into a double play, got a double back in the 5th inning. He was thrown out at home plate on a great throw by Jarvis Brown. That's the reason we're not still looking at a tie ball game. Pat Howell got a single with 2 outs. Hare tried to score. Brown gunned him down. The other time he grounded to second. They shade him a little bit toward the left field side. Heath not very deep in left field. You can see the defensive alignment there. A lot of room in right center field. They're not expecting him to pull Brad Clontz. Down low, 1-0. Hare was claimed out of the Tigers organization earlier this year. So he had a good shot at being on TBS one way or the other, either at Toledo on Tuesday or with Norfolk tonight. Upstairs, and it's 2-0. Down at second, Burnett's trying to unnerve Clontz. He looks like, Ernie, he has the right demeanor to be a relief pitcher, right disposition. Nothing seems to phase him.
At such a young age, too. Around that line.
Up and away, and it's 3-0. Joe Kamak waits on deck.
Good road hitter. 353 against 129.
They may put him on. This goes a little bit against the book, but I think they'd rather take their shot against the right-handed hitting catcher than to try to pitch from behind against the lefty Burnett. Or Hare. He's going to walk. First walk issued by Clontz. Runners at first and second. 2 outs, and here comes the catcher.
You don't see that very often. That's a winning run at first base. Intentionally passed, but you got to go kind of with the percentages here, righty against righty, and it's easier for Clontz to get a right-handed batter out.
Kamak only a .220 hitter against right-handers. There's a strike, and it's 0-1. That might have a little to do with the decision. No balls, 1 strike. There's that breaking ball. They're going to ask for help. Did he go? No, he did not.
I don't know about that one.
1 ball, 1 strike.
Let's take a look. Watch where the bat is. You can see the plate. Strike. It went over the plate. Past the plate.
The Braves trying to break a string here at the Diamond. They're 0-7 against Norfolk. Outside, and it's 2-1. That's going to bring Perez out for a conference. Showing a little bit of a take charge attitude you like from your catcher.
He's probably talking to him about I think Clontz is trying to throw that curveball too hard and make it too perfect. And once you start, as you know, once you throw a curveball too hard, it takes all the bite out of it.
There's the reason you walk Hare to put the potential go-ahead run on first. Chopper out in front. Perez is there. He's got time. He makes the throw, and the Braves win. The Braves win it 1-0, and they get great pitching from Birkbeck, Johnson, Clark, and Clontz slams the door. 1-0 to score. Our Holiday Inn player of the game, and well-deserved. His 11th win, Mike Birkbeck. 6 innings, 4 hits, no runs. He struck out 5. He only walked 2. He is our Holiday Inn player of the game. We'll be back to wrap it up from the Diamond in Richmond after this timeout.
It was a winning Friday night in Richmond as the Richmond Braves beat Norfolk 1-0. Look at that line score. Good pitching. Hope you enjoyed the game. It was a good baseball game. Took less than 2.5 hours to play as Birkbeck beat Hakame, and the Clontz picks up his 6th save. 1-0 Richmond.
Now Richmond 69-56 for the year. They move to within 1/2 game of Charlotte. There is a pennant race in the International League, and the Richmond Braves right in the middle of it. Our next telecast here on TBS will come Tuesday night. the Pawtucket Paw Sox are having themselves a good year, too, and the Braves will go against them. We will have it for you 7:35 Tuesday right here on TBS. We invite you to stay tuned because coming up next, we have ourselves a movie called The Deadly Tower. It's starring Kurt Russell. We thank you for spending your evening with us. For Ernie Johnson, for Skip Carey, for Joe Simpson, for all those folks you see rolling up there that band together to bring you Braves baseball, be it from Atlanta Fulton County Stadium or from the Diamond in Richmond. I'm Don Sutton. Once again, the Richmond Braves win it 1-0. Good night, everybody.